Did the Celtics give up too much for Kyrie Irving? Have the Cavs improved enough to beat the Warriors? Do the Jimmy Butler and Paul George trades look worse now? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast / live Periscope show. And today we have my man, James Hollis at Snotty Drippin', who is a B-Ball Breakdown contributor and just all-around instigator on our platform, amongst other places. And James, I'm glad to have you on. We have a few things to talk about, I would say. Oh, yeah, something big to talk about. You know, we were kind of searching earlier today to figure out what the hell we were going to talk about, and it was not that easy. But all of a sudden, we got a little gift in our lap. Kyrie trade went through to the Celtics. Are you surprised that it was the Celtics where he ultimately ended up?
Yeah, I thought this one was pretty far-fetched. I didn't think this one would happen. You know, we got two rivals, top two teams in the conference, you know, and someone just told me this. I'll give him credit on Twitter later on. I can't remember his name right now. But basically, the 2011 draft just traded the first pick for the last pick.
That is true. In fact, this is kind of an interesting full circle for me because one of the first viral videos I ever had was comparing Kyrie Irving to Isaiah Thomas after their rookie years. And I got so much shit for that for a while. I had people trying to discredit me and looking into my high school coaching record. I mean, it was bad around that time, even though I think I was, somewhat exonerated for having those thoughts back then. But yeah, it's certainly really interesting bookends here for a lot of different reasons. We've talked a lot about in the podcast with other people about this notion of him wanting to be traded in the midst of being the top team in the East and a guaranteed trip to the finals probably. So do you want to throw your 2 cents in right now about what you feel about the whole demand of a trade in the first place?
I didn't mind the demand for a trade. Kevin Garnett talked about it after their first championship in Boston, where he said that, he said, me, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen couldn't have done this when we were 20, 21, 22 because young players have a certain amount of ego. And Pat Riley talks about it, the disease of more, right? So, Kyrie had some success, but he feels he can do more. And I remember the thing that sticks out to me was when a reporter asked Kyrie about something about LeBron figure. And LeBron's like 6 years older than him. So I can see how a young guy who considers himself a superstar would get tired of that kind of stuff. And you know what? He wants to spread his wings. He got his ring. He has accolades. He's got the shoe sales and the jersey sales. He always hears that it's Chris Paul and it's Russell Westbrook and it's Steph Curry. The guy wants to go out and prove who he is as an NBA player, and you can't really fault him for that. We can't kill Kevin Durant on one hand for joining up forces with other stars, and then try to kill Kyrie for wanting to step out and be his own kind of man. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways.
Well, okay, that's interesting because. So let's see here. Kevin Durant left as a free agent versus demanding a trade by Kyrie. So it's a little bit different, but certainly you're right. The notion was the same. They both wanted out. And I do think there's a lot of parallels there. And I think that might have to do with who they're both playing with. I think this might have to do with LeBron a little bit and not wanting to play with him. And I think you're right about this weird father-son dynamic that I feel like LeBron trying to paint on top of Kyrie, and Kyrie wasn't having it at all, is interesting. And I wonder, we had Dave McMenamin on the show, and he had mentioned that Kyrie hadn't spoken to teammates for 2 straight days or 2 straight practices in the middle of the playoffs this year. So you have to wonder, what exactly is it that's rubbed him so wrong that made it a problem? But, at the very least, the Celtics, if you want to talk about their issues, the Cavaliers' issues as it is now, just to jump ship here real quick, it kind of does feel like the Cavaliers solved a lot of problems in a hurry.
Yeah, the shocking part about this is Danny Ainge usually, right? He comes out on top. He was very cautious with these draft picks, and we heard deals about Jimmy Butler. He didn't want to give up the picks to Crowder. Heard Paul George, same kind of thing. Didn't want to give up Jaylen Brown to pick. And for him to turn around now, and I like Kyrie. He's a really good player, a fine all-star player. But, I mean, if you're looking at a fit for Boston, I definitely think Jimmy Butler or, Paul George on court are better fits. So the fact that he would make this move, I get we got an extra year of Kyrie being on the team control than Isaiah. Isaiah wants his Brinks truck next summer, and now this gives Ainge a chance to kick the can down the road another year. I get that, but to give up the unprotected Nets pick and Jay Crowder on top of Isaiah, that just seems like an awful lot. For the Cavs, like you just said, hey, they got another versatile wing defender. They got another three-point shooter in Crowder, and Isaiah is just as good offensively as Kyrie is, so I don't think they lost much. And that pick is going to be incredible, I think, next year. So that's just it's a coup for Cleveland.
Okay, well, let's look at it from the Celtics' point of view just for a second here to break it down. So we're talking about so Kyrie. You're right. It's interesting. There are different types of players, but in terms of effectiveness and production, you're pretty much getting a similar thing there. So Kyrie now has to fit, and now they're going to change the starting lineup with 2 starters now, actually 3. Because they're losing Crowder, right? So now the Celtics have to deal with a completely new team, and they lost Avery Bradley. So I'm sorry, is it 4 starters? Did I lose track here?
No, yeah, 4 starters, yeah.
Yes. So 4 starters, and I don't even like Horford as a 5th starter anyway. So they're already kind of like
whoa, Coach. You don't like Horford?
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like
that's we'll do that for another show, I guess. Me and you can go to war over that one.
All right, fine. I just don't think he's like a starter on a great good team and a good enough team to get to the finals. He doesn't have the rim protection. Wasn't there? He just kind of floats to the 3-point line a lot, and I don't know. I think I like him. I'm sure he's a great.
Wouldn't
teammate.
that'd be more of a team composition thing, right? If you put a shot blocker beside him and you move into power forward, that's a team composition thing. That's not a Horford thing. He's ideal as a power forward in the modern NBA.
Yeah, well,
right?
Listen, I had already shown last year in a kind of a prescient video that he was better when he had Olynyk playing alongside him, and Olynyk, believe it or not, was doing a little bit of that traditional center stuff down low. So I hear you. I just feel like we kind of at this point in Horford's career. I don't know if he's the guy. I don't know. It just frustrates me a little bit watching him. It's mostly defense, but even so, let's get back to what we have here because so the Celtics, in my mind, to get Kyrie, it would have required like a starter and a pick. Like those are the 2 main things, and maybe like something else, right?
Yeah.
Instead, they give up 2 starters and a pick, right? And of all the picks they're going to give up, the one that's unprotected from the Nets, right? So yeah, I think we're both in agreement that was probably too much to give up for Kyrie. I mean, I think
100%.
That?
So I guess me and you are probably in the minority here because I heard other trades where like, hey, Jamal Murray and Gary Harris and a pick and Wilton Chandler, which all that sounds like too much for Kyrie, and it sounds like too much. The only thing I can say is Danny Ainge has earned a little benefit of the doubt for me. In the last 3 years, he turned the team from a lottery team to an Eastern Conference finalist. They got Jaylen Brown. They got Tatum already in the fold. And I don't know, man. I got to give Danny Ainge a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But, yeah, I'm scratching my head because it seems like a little too much to give.
Yeah. And so, they held on to that pick for so long, and you felt like,
That's
okay, why give it up at that point? But again, it is weird because all of a sudden, for some reason, I hadn't really thought of it. But yes, you're now talking about an Eastern Conference Finals team, which probably wouldn't have really competed with the Cavaliers, even with the healthy Isaiah. Maybe it's 6 games. All right, 6 games?
I think they had a chance. I think as constructed, both teams had a chance before the trade.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. It's hard. It's kind of funny because I forgot how vulnerable I felt the Cavaliers were going into the finals, even though the Celtics just weren't grabbing me quite, enough. But you're right. 6, 7 games, whatever, and now they're completely starting over and without that pick. So let's move over to the Cavaliers side because my whole issue with the Cavaliers was I think J.R. Smith was a big reason. And it primarily against the Warriors. I mean, I think you can kind of deal with JR and get what you need out of him everywhere else they play, but not against the Warriors, against a team that moves, gets him on the weak side in defense, gets him lost. And so, you can't afford any of those lapses against the Warriors. So they still have him, but they added another perimeter defender. Now, I feel like is Crowder getting enough respect as a top defender in the league? As far as I'm concerned, I think he is.
He's a very good defender. We found, though, he has a problem guarding quicker, like smaller kind of 2 guards. He can't guard them very well. He doesn't fight the screens very well. He bulked up a lot.
Yeah.
But, he's a fine defender, fine team defender, man. He's gonna dig in. He can play some power forward for you in small ball lineups. He shot almost 40% from 3 last year. I think a lot of that was, had to do with the spacing from Horford and Isaiah, but he's going to have the same thing with Isaiah and now Kevin Love. So yeah, man, it's just this is like Cleveland. They got everything they kind of needed in one fell swoop. And dude, if they can get like a Mo Bamba next season or a Marvin Bagley with that pick, that's something else.
Yeah. Now, here's another question. You know, we've seen Isaiah have a little bit of issues with other dominant scorers on his team. So, and we've already seen that Kyrie, you know, did. I would give him credit. I feel like he subjugated his. That's the right word. Or whatever, subjugated whatever he did to his game to
Suppressed
allow
his game.
Yes, you know, to allow LeBron to be the man and do this thing. You know, he did that as well as anybody in that situation could do it. I don't know. Will Isaiah be able to exist in a way where he gets less ball dominance, he gets less high pick and rolls, I'm assuming, because, you know, Kyrie didn't get as many as he wanted of those. How do you think that's going to work?
I think Isaiah's a smart player. I think he knows he's playing with LeBron James. He has a chance to, you know, go to the finals. I think he is smart enough to know that if he plays well, he's still trying to earn his paycheck next summer. So, it's again, like they're very similar players. You know, he's able to play off ball and kind of lay in the weeds until they need him to take over and score a lot. He's a microwave type scorer. He heats up quickly. So I don't see how it'll be too much of a problem, man. It's LeBron James he's playing off of. And I think Isaiah's actually a little better off of that quick catch and shoot or, you know, pulling him off the dribble than Kyrie was. Just, you know, quick kind of catch, shoot, a quick pull up. Kyrie likes to dribble himself to a rhythm. So I think he might even almost be a better fit with LeBron.
Very true. And that reminds me of the great fit between me and Blue Apron, the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. What I like best about Blue Apron is the variety. So whether you're a Kyrie guy or an Isaiah fan, their flexible menus can be customized to your individual taste. You won't believe how easy it is to cook things like basil pesto chicken with summer vegetable panzanella. While it might sound complicated, the easy-to-follow recipe and exactly measured quantities of food make for an easy experience, one that your whole family can bond over. For less than $10 per person per meal, you can have Blue Apron delivered to your door. And if you visit blueapron.com/CoachNick, you'll get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. That's like an Isaiah Thomas floater over Hassan Whiteside, or a Kyrie step-back triple in Curry's face. So visit blueapron.com/CoachNick, get your first 3 meals free, and get that same home cooking you get from the refs when your team plays in their own arena. That's actually interesting because you can argue that the offense that Brad Stevens put Isaiah in, which was finally like he found a home where he could really be as effective as possible, was motion, attacking off the catch and just sort of, or like catch and shoot and not pounding the ball. Like that was one thing that, you're right. So in theory, he's had 2 years to kind of train for that. Sort of, you know, in a similar vein as, you know, maybe Durant was trained, you know, with Russ to like be off the ball and have to, you know, work with somebody else in that sense. So that might actually work. I'm kind of intrigued by the notion of like Kevin Love on this team with a guy like Crowder, because in theory they should start Crowder where Kevin Love is, you know, if they want to use Crowder as much as they, or as well as they could. Does that mean, can they get away with starting Kevin Love like center a little bit, or is that not going to work either?
Well, see, then you got Tristan coming off the bench, which, I mean, I think Tristan would, again, like you said, subjugate his ego. But, I mean, why wouldn't they go, you know, Isaiah, JR? Oh, man, it's tough. Yeah, LeBron's there, so.
Yeah, because Crowder can't be a 2-guard, although.
No, he can't, no.
He's the right height, right? But although I feel like, wasn't Crowder playing? I got to look. I don't think he ever played 2-guard, did he? He was always sort of 3
I mean,
4.
See, nowadays a wing is a wing kind of, right? Okay. You know, if you got a 2-3, 3-2, sure, LeBron is a 3. He doesn't play 2, but a guy like Crowder, 6'6", strong, I guess why not? You could start him at 2, but I mean, JR kind of thrived starting. Are you happy bringing him back off the bench? I don't know, man.
I don't know. I'm confused. I'm also confused because, well, there's no confusion as far as defensively, because so Isaiah clearly was an issue for the Boston Celtics for a variety of reasons, and you know, I kind of want to say primarily it's because of his stature, because he did a good effort and he tried. Kyrie is a better defender, I think, right? When Kyrie really does try, he can actually make defensive plays, whereas you're just hoping that Isaiah doesn't
gets in the way. Right. And we saw the Wizards target Isaiah. You know, whoever he switched to, they threw him in the post or just ran him in front of the rim and threw him the ball. And it worked. You know, that's the big thing for me with this trade is that it's even though they're similar players, you know, you actually have an adult-sized man now playing your point guard and not a sixth grader, which I'm not making fun of Isaiah. He was amazing. But it does put a certain cap on how good the team is going to be when your best scorer also probably can't be on the floor in your best lineups, playing defense. So for Cleveland, now you got Kevin Love, who sure he was better in the finals, but he's not a strong defender. Right. And you got Isaiah to worry about now, and teams are going to target him. They're going to target him. So let's see. I really think that Boston was not going to miss Crowder as much as people think, because I think Jaylen Brown's ready for a bigger role. I think Marcus Smart can step in an Avery Bradley role and take over as the primary defender on the perimeter for guards. Smart is actually a better all-around defender than Avery Bradley. I hate to break it to people. Really? I'm telling you right now, Avery Bradley was a net negative, and that's not saying he's a bad player, but the team actually just performed at a higher efficiency when Avery Bradley was out of the game.
I know. Well, okay, we can save that discussion about those defensive stats for another day too. Because
no, it's not even about the efficiency stats. It's the fact that when Avery Bradley sat, I mean, he was hurt for I think 15, almost 20 games. They didn't. Al Horford and Marcus Smart. So he's good. He's a great guy to throw on somebody if they're hot, and he puts all the effort in there. But as far as team defender, Smart's a lot better. Smart's a better off-ball defender, and gets in the passing lane. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, he's stronger and he's a little bit more versatile. I mean, I hated the idea of him like trying to guard LeBron or like going down low to do it, but like. Okay, he could do it a little bit. He could do it certainly more than like Bradley could. But I don't know. There are those moments when you watch Bradley just do the junkyard dog thing and just is all over the guys, and it really makes it difficult. And I feel like that's.
Coach, do you remember the 2015 playoffs when Paul Millsap was going nuts? And he had 39 points going into the fourth quarter. And guess what they did? They threw Marcus Smart on Paul Millsap, and he went 1 for 5 the rest of the game.
Okay, yeah. I mean, hey, that is true too. Again, regression to the mean for Mr. Millsap either way. Yeah. No, listen, I like Marcus Smart. The thing with Bradley was always interesting is that he became a pretty good offensive player as well, which made that value. I had a hard time being sold on that, even though he ultimately shot I think about 40% from three, and he could put the ball on the ground a little bit, and he did it enough times where you had to accept that this is a thing, and so that's going to be a big deal I think for them either way, because I just get back to the forward glut that they have. That is the best part about the Celtics moving Crowder is that they now have room or minutes to play these guys, because otherwise the first round draft pick from Duke is
Tatum.
Tatum was not going to play at all, right?
Yeah, so that was my one concern this year before both the trades actually is that we have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They had Crowder. Then they got Shemi Ojale, who's going to be basically a 4-5. You won't play him at 3. Yabusele is a 4-5. Abdel Nader is a 3-4. So yeah, we definitely had a glut of players. Even like my guy Bird, Jabari Bird is a 6'6" 2 guard who can play some 3 also. He's signed a contract and he can shoot lights out. He can play some defense. So we had a glut of guys and it up for rookies and guys who may not be quite ready, right? So, and as a team that's trying to contend right now, that kind of worries me about Paul.
For sure. And Marcus Smart, by the way, was playing that forward position too a little bit, so that was less minutes. So yeah, it actually is I'm sure Brad Stevens loved Crowder and doesn't want to see him go, but it certainly alleviates some issue there. But again, hard to imagine that the Celtics are going to be able to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals with 4 new starters.
Quick theory I have for you is that Crowder never let go of the fact that the Boston home crowd was cheering for Gordon Hayward. Do you remember that when Gordon Hayward came to town? Yeah. And so he never let go of that fact. I'm pretty sure once Gordon Hayward signed, I'm not pretty sure. I just have a feeling he might have even kind of agitated for, well, if you're going to bring him in, just go ahead and get me out of here. Yeah. No, that's certainly a possibility too. I mean, I don't know Crowder at all personally. For sure, yeah, me neither.
Like he'd be that guy, but those Marquette guys are kind of quiet and they're tough and they don't they just do their business. But I don't know.
Okay, but back to what you were saying about 4 starters. I mean, it's a long season. It's 82 games. And I think Brad Stevens is going to have a chance to run some real positionless basketball for stretches. And they're deep, they're versatile. I think regular season they're going to be fine. My problem with the Wizards is that they don't have enough depth off the bench.
Yeah.
The Raptors' offense is so vanilla that in the playoffs it's kind of easy to kind of short circuit them. So I'm not too worried about them. Boston, the Eastern Conference Finals is theirs to lose.
Yeah. Oh.
No, I'm sorry. Is theirs to, as far as a berth in the Eastern Conference Finals, is theirs to lose. I'm not saying they're going to definitely beat the Cavs, but I think I still take them over Washington or the Raptors to reach the Eastern Conference Finals.
I mean, I guess that means that we're going. That I'm getting off the Wizards train, which is sad.
Are you big on them? You high on the Wizards?
I've been on the train for a long time, thinking like this is the chance they have. This, they have what they needed to beat the Cavaliers, which is a fast break, up tempo game. And it was a weird series between them and the Celtics. It's really hard to get a handle on how that worked out too. So you're right. They're the one team that really had a shot at like doing something this offseason to get that jump, and they did nothing except re-sign Otto. So which is good, but they needed another point guard off the bench. It's a real problem. So
Kelly Oubre is like their only real scorer off the bench, and that's, I don't know if I trust that.
No, I hear you. I like him. He's developing. He keeps improving, but that's a real. It's not enough.
For sure.
So let's go back over to the Cavaliers. This notion of like the first round pick, which is great and all. I mean, listen, LeBron James is going to have to do some defending. I think more than he had last year. I really feel like that he needs to start making a few more plays on that end if they're going to really compete with the Warriors. But that, because again, if you look at that now, if you put Isaiah in that lineup with Kevin Love, right? That they're going to be alongside. You have a plus defender in Tristan Thompson, and then JR is JR. I guess if we're going to do that, or we somehow get Crowder in there. So I don't know. Why don't they just throw LeBron at center?
I mean, they can try, and KD's still going to eat from his position wherever he's at. That's the thing. There's just no real solution as they're built for Golden State. They need a infusion of talent somewhere else. If they could add Paul George for free, which they can't, it's like I just don't see a way out.
Okay, so let's go talk about this, because there can't be. The Bulls must be a little bit upset here, right? I mean, what they got for Butler compared to what the Cavaliers got for Kyrie. I mean, right? None of these things seem to make sense. And then you throw in what the Pacers got for Paul George, right? Nothing is making sense to me when you kind of compare those, right?
It's not. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, walk me through this, because or let's even look at the notion of what Phoenix was going to give up. They were going to give up probably what? They didn't want to give up, but they had Jackson, and they're going to probably give up Bledsoe and maybe a pick or maybe not a pick. How does that measure up with what they ended up getting from Boston?
I mean, I still think they got a better haul from Boston. When you get two fully formed guys instead of having a Josh Jackson guy who's, he's no one knows what Josh Jackson really is yet. So, and I'm glad that Phoenix is thinking about long term. They weren't going to give up Josh Jackson, and that's smart. I think. I'm just flabbergasted by Boston giving up so much. I don't get it. Because you're right. I think there's no other deal that was even close that was going to really happen. So I don't get it.
Right. And and so it's like, and we can go back to the Pacers thing. It's like they had the deal they ended up doing for Paul George. That would have been there weeks later. I don't think no one was going to do another deal with OKC to get Oladipo and Sabonis. So it's just that's mind-boggling to me too, because the Cavaliers wanted to trade Kyrie. The Celtics had all these assets, and then the Pacers wanted to trade Paul George. What should have happened? Shouldn't Paul George have ended up on Cleveland?
Yes, and I mean, we all heard the rumor about how Denver had a deal all lined up, and I think the Pacers GM backed out the last minute. Right?
Right. What was that deal? Do you remember?
It was Gary Harris, I think Wilson Chandler, and a pick was going to Indiana, and then Love was going to Denver, and then Paul George was going to Cleveland.
Wow. Now, that would have been a really bad deal for Denver, right?
You think so?
I don't know, getting Love for a pick and Gary Harris, and I mean, yeah, I guess Love is worth something. And you know what? In Denver, you know, without Gallinari there, he might have been even better. So okay, not bad.
But
yes.
back to the Paul George thing. I guess it's the big. Didn't want to give up like fungible assets for a guy who could walk in 11 months. I can understand that.
Okay. Now, which also kind of touches upon a little bit about this notion of tampering that the Pacers are now accusing the Lakers of, which is very strange because what's the difference? He's gone. They traded him. What's the tampering anyway? Can you understand? Do you think the Pacers are trying to get out of the trade by saying there's tampering with the Lakers?
No, I think it's almost like they feel that, you know, justly or not. I'm not exactly sure what the evidence they have. They feel like they didn't get a fair shake with Paul George. They feel that maybe, you know, somebody was in his ear that shouldn't have been. So it went from maybe I'll resign to you guys to all right, there's no way I'm resigning, and so it seems like they just kind of want their pound of flesh from the Lakers.
Okay, very weird. I mean,
it is. Yeah. It sounds petty and weird, but I mean, we'll see. I guess when the story's going to come out, we'll get the whole story eventually. I guess, hopefully. So
yeah. I'm trying to get like a Lakers insider around the show this week to talk more about it because you know, I mean, everybody talks. I'm sure Magic doesn't know all the nuances of all the. Well, maybe he does know all the rules and doesn't care. But either way, yeah, it's very, very, very strange. And I don't know exactly what the Pacers are trying to get out of this at this point. But you know, I guess that's the key: is what is the penalty for that? Would they somehow get an extra pick from somebody? Right? Isn't there a penalty on the Lakers if they're found guilty?
I mean, like up to they could, if they're really found guilty and there's evidence, they could actually the league could bar any trades that send Paul George or any signing of Paul George to the Lakers.
Oh, you mean in the future? That's interesting.
In the future, right? So I think that's one of the options. I think if like it's some rock hard evidence that Magic reached out or something happened. Who knows? I'm not sure how it goes, but.
Yeah, it's true, and I that's interesting. Yeah, especially because maybe Paul George. I mean, did they convince Paul George to want to get out of there to go to LA? He was already from here. I don't think that was ever a thing, but very fascinating stuff. Here's some questions we have on Periscope. I'll throw out here that Undisputed Goat asks: will Cleveland give IT a max? What do we think about that?
I don't see how they do it. The only way they do it is if LeBron says, "I will stay here if you keep Isaiah." I think because I mean, $30+ million for Isaiah is tough to swallow, man. It's tough to swallow. He'll be 30 here soon. So I'm actually that's one thing I'm relieved about the trade that Boston doesn't have to make the decision now. I don't mind paying Kyrie max in 2019. I didn't want to pay Isaiah max next year.
Oh, I agree. That was the biggest issue of anybody going into that next year was whether they were going to pay Isaiah. It was not going to be worth it because he's 30, I think, right, next year, something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was just not going to be a worthwhile max. It's the same max they had to pay Drew Holiday, which I never thought was anywhere near worth it. And they gave it to him this offseason, right? And
that's the market, man.
Yeah, it's a terrible market, man. If I were an owner, it's like, Jesus, what do you? I know you have to do what you got to do, but Jesus Christ, those are not good contracts as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Drew Holiday is a starter in the league, but that's about
not a max player, yeah.
No,
not a max player.
And it's a cascade of issues over there because they're not going to get where they need to go with these two big guys, and if they lose those guys, that's going to be a big problem again for them. That's
another topic we can cover some other times. I think they're going to be pretty good this year. So that's a great topic for us to hit. Yeah, I think so. But I'm going to plug two things. Our guy Brian Toperick over at B-Ball Breakdown, he actually wrote a piece about how the new Supermax contracts are actually hurting teams, right? Teams are being put over the barrel and saying, "Hey, I'd rather move Boogie than pay him." $45 million a year. So Brian Toperick wrote that, and then our guy Jesse Blanchard, we'll have to go read it in postmortem now. He wrote an article about why the Boston Celtics should pay Isaiah Thomas, and so a lot of those things don't matter now. But I guess they kind of transfer over to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So,
Yeah, and if we're doing plugs, I just released this an hour ago a really interesting video on who had the best the best season for a little man in the NBA, 6 feet or under, and Isaiah Thomas's last season was one of the three we spotlit, and so kind of a fascinating thing there because he had an argument for having the best season of all time for someone 6 feet or under, especially because if we looked at Allen Iverson and Tiny Archibald, those guys are 4 inches taller than him, or 5, so it's even more impressive on Isaiah's part. So I guess there's another question that flew out on the Periscope, which was that Fife Demlu one asked, did the Cavs get better? I don't know. Did we specifically answer that question clearly?
I'll answer it specifically. I think they got better. Sure, I think you could say that Isaiah's, I think he's in the same ballpark as Kyrie, so you can say they got a little better, a little worse there. Getting Jay Crowder was huge. So, yeah, they got better.
Yeah, I agree. They needed a defender on the wing, and they got it. And they didn't lose much offensively from the point guard position. Another question we got here is from, let's see here, JChe11. Do you think IT will have as much freedom in the Cavs offense as he did in Boston? And we did touch upon that for a second, but no, right? The answer has to be no.
It has to be no, right? Because this is LeBron James' world. Isaiah was the big fish in the medium-sized pond in Boston. He ran the show. He was able to, when he wanted to, just take any shot he pretty much wanted in the flow of the offense, kind of. And when they needed him to, he can go bonkers. This is LeBron James' show, and he'll be playing off LeBron James unless LeBron James, is ready to see the offense to him and let. So, no, he won't have the same freedom at all.
Right, and that's going to be an interesting question. Now, will he take winning over over a little less stuff? Now, here's the thing: he could be a catch and shoot guy and shoot 40% from 3 and get get some pick and rolls and get some attacking on the catch that LeBron opens up for him. He could, in theory, have the easiest shots of his career in this, and probably the highest field goal percentage of his career this year because of that. And if he can figure that out, and we get to find out, I think that Ty Lue's going to have to do some of that coaching stuff that maybe he hasn't been doing recently, or we'll see, because it is a significant. It's different. It's going to be a different team for them. I have to imagine they're getting rid of all the other old guys, right? Is RJ gone? Do we know anything about him?
I think RJ's back, man. I think RJ's back. I know Kyle's still there. Corver's still there.
Yeah. Chandler is wait. Yeah.
Chandler Fry. Fry's there
Fry,
still.
Excuse me, is gone, right?
I don't think so. I think he's still there, man. I think this is quality live periscoping.
Gosh. It is. And D Rose as well, as I'm reminded, is on this team.
Somebody told me that D Rose is you can pencil him in for 6th man of the year, so I guess we'll see.
I don't think he played as badly as people want to make it seem last year. Do you?
He didn't play badly, but our guy, I think it was Network or J.A. Dubin, one of those guys. They're big Twitter following. They wrote a piece about how you can be productive but not really useful. And so putting up 18 points a game on a bad team is not – I mean, how much impact are you really having? And that's going to be the question next year. Can he be an impactful player? That's going to be the question.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if he's going to come off the bench, I mean, there's the thing. Rose coming in off the bench behind Kyrie is, that's a nice position for him if he can kind of accept that and not just try and force everything, to try and make some big statement. I wonder if there's going to be a competition for that starting position between Rose and IT. What do you think?
I think Derrick Rose still thinks he's a superstar. Derrick Rose carries himself like that, and he has that confidence. So I think he's definitely coming into the training camp now, especially thinking, I got a shot to take over the starting spot. And he's going to play like it. I mean, he averaged, 18-5, 18-6 last year, which the numbers are good. And he shot a decent percentage. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that has a potential to be something there. Like you said, if they put Isaiah as a starter and Rose feels he should be a starter, let's see how that goes chemistry-wise.
I'm fascinated. That has to be one of the storylines we got to look at because
I like that.
Without Brad Stevens, any other kind of very traditionalist kind of coach would look at Isaiah Thomas and say, like everyone else had it for his career, say you are that Vinnie Johnson microwave off the bench. You are not a starter. And maybe I'd argue that's his perfect role, because of the defensive stuff. Bring him in, let him score 18, 19 a game in about 25 minutes. He could finish the games, but that is a fascinating thing because LeBron James cures a lot of ills. He makes people better. We certainly understand that. I mean, if they can figure it out, if Kevin Love, he finally kind of figured it out and became better for it, right? So that is what he can do for teams. But I don't know. They're going to have to do some. There's going to be a lot of adjustments here. I think the Eastern Conference might actually start off kind of rough in the beginning as Boston's adjusting, as Cleveland's got to adjust a little bit. Washington, who knows? Maybe Washington gets out of the gate big because they're the only team that's coming back with like their same team.
And my thing with Isaiah is, like you're saying, his ideal role might be off the bench. It's really hard to put that back in the box, right? After a guy scores 29 points a game and gets 30-something minutes a game, it's really hard to tell him, oh, you know what? Now go back in your reserve role. Right, and again, Isaiah has a lot in common with Derrick Rose, where he carries himself as a star, and he thinks, "Hey, I'm an all-star. You're not going to tell me I'm a bench player, a role player here to back up LeBron James and Derrick Rose." So yeah, that's definitely going to be something to watch in Cleveland.
Well, we'll have to keep our eye on all that stuff, and don't forget the Bucks, as Nuruddin just reminded me, and that's absolutely true. With Jabari Parker back, I think they're going to be right there as well. It's going to be, the East will be really kind of fun, maybe for the first time in a long time. I
don't think Jabari's back until like January. I think it's
right?
about it's going to, and then of course it's going to be on a minutes count. My one question about the Bucks is the coaching. I don't know if is Jason Kidd, is he creative enough to take advantage of their size ability?
Yeah, that is a very good point. There was a moment there where I thought he really was coaching him up and doing well, and then they had not this year but the year before they kind of crashed and burned a little bit, and so this is the reckoning. I think he's probably on the hot seat at this point. They need to take another step forward, or else he'd probably be gone.
And honestly, that might be the move to make. I get it, because the coach is always the easiest one to go, and you have a generational type guy in Giannis. You got to do everything you can to make him successful. You might have to get a more creative coach in there to take full advantage of his unique game.
Absolutely. Well, James, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and breaking this stuff down for us live on Periscope. We're battling the internet here, but it seemed we got through it. Great stuff, and we're going to do this every week.
Hey, you know what, Coach? I'm going to hold you to that. And so me and you can come on and we can battle about Russell Westbrook. We can battle about Al Horford. I'm raring to go. I appreciate you.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll do this. We can do it live on Tuesday, and then we'll drop it on every Wednesday morning fresh for the morning commute as we get into school finally starting, although my kids still don't go back to school for another week, and then the other one for 2 weeks. So we'll be getting back into it as soon as now and whatever. But next week I'm going to see you. We're going to do this regularly because we owe the fans this kind of analysis. It's great stuff. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? You in, James?
Hey, Coach, I'm in.